I am GreatBobloxReviews. Today we are reviewing a game called Multicrew Tank Combat 4. Phew, that was a lot to say. This is a semi-realistic team-based tank shooter that has an armor deflection system similar to War Thunder. The player's objective is to capture and hold points of interest to earn points for their team. Players cannot single-handedly control all parts of the vehicle simultaneously in this game. They need a friend or a temporary acquaintance to help turn the tides of this digital war. When players first join a game, they will see a few options on their screen. Players can view a tutorial, which I recommend, or they can click the play button. From here, players can choose between the Hawks or the Eagles, and sometimes even the Felid Empire. When they click this, they will spawn at the military base. From here, players can zoom in on the minimap by pressing M. They can also click on this map to mark locations, which is neat. Players can view who has the most points, kills, tank kills, and point captures by pressing Tab. Players can also donate to the developers who worked so hard to make this masterpiece of a game. When players decide to spawn at the military base, they are overwhelmed with options. Players have the option to spawn over 15 plus unique fighting vehicles. Players can spawn in the vehicle by stepping on the blue spawn plate. When players step on this plate, a simple menu will display vehicle options. I recommend gearing up with jerry cans, ammo boxes, and guns. Then, players can spawn and enter their crawling war machines. Depending on the map, players can switch between military bases, which just adds to that gameplay. As the name of the game entails, this game has tanks and tank combat, potentially fun tank combat. There are also multiple tank types a player can spawn that have various roles in the battlefield. These tanks usually require 2 to 3 players to function efficiently. Players can enter these tanks by opening a hatch and clicking on the seat. Different seats will serve different roles players can fulfill. These roles are commander, driver, gunner, loader, and passenger. Tanks in this game have a unique method of driving around. If you think driving tanks in this game are simple, you would be wrong. Well, not really. These tanks have to manually shift gears, and players will have to stare at that tachometer while doing so. This game includes power bands for optimal shifting, which can send the tank flying, or they can stall the tank. Players can shift gears by pressing Q or E. Drivers can only drive, however, so they will need another player to do other tank functions. The gunner's job is to be on the lookout for enemy tanks. They can switch between first and third person perspectives to seek and destroy the enemy tanks. Some tanks have more than one turret. Some tanks usually come with a machine gun glued to the barrel for personal defense or personal offense. Players can switch gun types by pressing C. Players can move the gun with WAS and D and aim with X. There is bullet drop in this game, so players can use a rangefinder by holding down V. Depending on the tank type, gunners may have to rely on a loader to load shells into the tank's gun. Gunners can also shoot seeking missiles that are highly effective. To reliably hit a target, aim slightly above the target and guide the missile into the tank. Some tanks allow for the gunner to shoot and load simultaneously. Oh yeah, the commander is just a glorified machine gunner. And then the passengers just keep the seats warm. This game also includes features like Gurella Warfare. Players can hide in bushes and buildings to defeat a numerically superior enemy. Players have a wide arsenal such as rocket launchers, machine guns, anti-tank snipers, and a double-barreled shotgun. Rocket launchers are the most effective at taking out armored opponents. Machine guns and rifles are good at taking out softer targets. These firearms are ineffective on tanks, but are very effective on taking out fleshy opponents. Tanks have a unique armor penetration system. Low caliber and lower velocity shots have a higher chance of not penetrating the enemy armor. If tanks are angled 45 degrees from their target, they will increase the chances of bullet ricochets. If this happens, bullets will simply bounce off the tank, which is useful when you're in a vulnerable position. Players will usually die inside the tank before the tank itself blows up. There are weaker areas of the tank that are more vulnerable to penetration than others. There are also different tanks with different armor thicknesses. Thinner armor is placed at the rear and sides of the tanks, which leads to more penetration, which has a chance of hitting the drivetrain or ammo rack. Players can also hit the turret ring of a tank to stop the turret from rotating. The player's goal is to help their team gain the most points by holding points of interest, destroying tanks, and mutilating players. The player's goal is also to prevent the other team from gaining those juicy points of interest. There are 3 main points of interest, such as Point A, Point B, and Point C. When the round ends, the team with the most points scores a victory. Then, at the end of every round, players can vote on which map to play next. Players can also vote on the combat era, which provides more of that replayability. This game has a few Easter eggs related to previous multi-tank crew simulators. Some of these Easter eggs, referring to previous installments, include an entire map that has been updated and exported into MTC4 from MTC3. The tanks in MTC4 are loosely based off of real-world designs, most notably the Kettengrad, which is a weird motorcycle contraption. Please, do not use it. You will die. But that's painfully obvious. Oh, I forgot to mention, according to YouTube, many people won't even watch up to this point, so I thank you for watching up to this point. Now, you may be wondering how I got here. Well, I was destroying some evil robots, and I was awarded a medal. Then, the Blue Army had a special task for me. Their task was to send someone back in time to prevent the outbreak of the evil robot virus. I volunteered to go back in time, as I am not a fan of cyberpunk. They sent me back to cause chaos to prevent any software from taking over the world. I then get into tanks with random strangers with suggestive outfit designs to battle other strangers in tanks to see how many strangers can be slaughtered in a 30-minute time span. Trust me, it's to save the future. I am very efficient as I have future knowledge. I destroy the enemy with guerrilla warfare tactics, and also, the element of surprise is powerful. It's as powerful as a tank 50 cal. With my superior tactics, I win an almost unbeatable war from its roots. But that's all I have for now.